Hi, Carl, Dale, Andrew, and maybe this might go out to other men on the executive board, but I wanted to just address the concept that has been brought up in the last 2 months about us doing regional revitalization work and the plan of that. And a question has been raised regarding how does this help with replanting and planting new churches. So I want to start off first with a verse, if I may read that from First Chronicles 12. Verse 32, it says, from Issachar, this is delineating the list of different men and leaders and troops that were coming to help David and to bring him into Hebron, reign as king over all Israel after the death of Saul. So it's giving the different ones that were coming to help him. And it says this about the men from Issachar: they understood the times and knew what Israel should do. 200 chiefs with all their relatives under their command. And then the next verse talks about the ones from Zebulun, and it states, to help David with undivided loyalty. This comment about the men of Issachar knew the times and what should be done. I think that's especially precious to us at what we're going through in this association, and just to understand what we've been struggling with over the last 4 to 5 years with all the changes going on in our churches and our 10-year studies showing the decline that's gone on, but those percentages of decline matching up with national studies of declines going on across the nation, and the changes that are coming out of this. Um, Again, the fact that we as Southern Baptists do not have the former structure we used to know. We don't have the opportunities of trainings nor the former practices that went on that gave us so many different common connections as pastors to pastors and being related together in one association and one denomination. And so, with all that change, no longer do we have the means nor again the connecting points that gives relationships between our pastors. That coupled with the fact that we don't have the amount of staff in our SBC nor at our state convention. Um, when I worked at NAM, there was over 400 employees. The last information I had, there was about 160 to 70 left. When I served at the state convention before going to NAM back in 97 to 03, '03, we probably had nearly twice the amount of staff at our state convention than we do now. That said, um, no longer do we have denominational trainings. Again, the denominational structure and things that, to say, systems that held us together more and gave us, again, more connecting points. All of this has brought to us a new reality that uh, beyond all this, you have the internet that came on 20 years ago. And in these last 20 years, there's trainings and resources available to our pastors outside denominational life, outside Southern Baptist family, that our guys are invited to go to, draw upon, be connected into. On top of that, now we have networks all over the nation. To illustrate a few, Acts 29, it's changed a lot since the founder left the pastorate, but that's still in existence. You have the Piper relationships. You have Nine Marks and Mark Devers uh, together for the gospel movement and network. You have the network of the Reform movement that a guy went to school with back in the 80s at Southwestern, the PhD program. Tom Askell has started within Southern Baptist life, and it goes outside of Southern Baptist life. And so all these things are coming to our pastors and inviting them into connectivity with these either resources, trainings, these networks. So that leaves us in a new day, a new era. Well, back to our point now and the initiative we've taken on of my serving half time in the association as a revi slash farm system director coordinator. The ideal of us having regional teams going to our pastors, that would be two of our pastors in a region taking on the other pastors of that area. We've thought about 6 regions, 6 teams of 2 pastors going and visiting with 6 other pastors in that region. That would give us a total of actually 48 relationships. If you take the 6 times 2 of the teams that would go out in those regions, and they go to 6 each, 6 times 6, 36. So those 36, along with the 12 guys going out visiting, there's some relationships. Whether they visited once a month or if they could visit twice a month, then there's a connection, a sincere connection. These teams would largely be going into our pastors just to listen, not trying to tell them how to do it, not trying to tell them they ought to take this training, but it's there to listen to them and love on them. And out of that kind of approach of building that relationship, that working relationship, we will naturally find out where they are, their needs, their opportunities they're working on, and sharing that information will give us more, to say, definitive understanding of how we can try to come alongside and help them. We've thought about 4 S's of classifications that's going to naturally accrue or come out of this understanding of where our churches are. So we've got probably churches that are sinking. If they don't get help, they're gone. So to answer the question about how would this regional revi approach help replants? Well, actually, it's already in motion as to the fact of our replanting Olympic Baptist in Modesto. Houston was at a replant situation. If we didn't get someone in there, those 12 people, when Ken Sartain left from the pastorate at Houston, they were going away. They would be disbanding. That was a replant, and David Mark came in there from Calvary Baptist Modesto and also from his relationship and work of Lake Don Pedro. One of our own guys went in there. One of our own guys went into Olympic Baptist, Gary Graham. Now, this Sunday, Oakdale's calling one of our guys, Homer Evans, to pastor. Those 12 people are sinking if we don't get leadership in there to them that can stabilize them, give them a new dream, and begin to love them and lead them forward to rebuild and regroup, like what we've seen God do through Gary Graham, through David Mark, and those team members with them. Lindsay Budeman, that went from Berkeley, had come out of Calvary Baptist Modesto, went to Houston shortly after David Mark started and formed a teamship there and helped David Mark with that. Another dear brother got with Gary Graham at Olympic and began working with him after Gary started there in that first year. We know we need to send teams if at all possible. They're going to be much more stronger and much more enduring if we can do so. We have a situation at Merced right now. The pastor left December 29, 12 people left. Steve Shoemaker is going in as an interim. We've had 2 meetings already this week with another possible intern in our farm system, and another intern is interested to come as a part of the farm system that we hope God will lead to rebuild the church at Merced. Even the possibility of one of these interns becoming the pastor, as we saw at Ceres in 2018. In the first part of 19, the 2 interns that were there in 18, one was called a senior pastor, one as associate pastor. So this regional revi approach will help us in building relationships within our association, and through those relationships, better understanding, better information, knowledge of how we can help the churches. To illustrate the point, this week, Andrew shared with me something he knew more about one intern prospect that maybe could help our church at Empire, another replant situation down to 12 people. We've got to get to them leadership that will love them and lead them consistently if they're going to stay in business, or those doors will close of that church. Well, how would a regional Revi approach of six Revi teams potentially going into talk with our pastors and working together with them help us plant new churches? Well, to say we're not going to be able to plant new churches in the future by paying a full-time salary, that's out of the question unless somebody comes in maybe from the outside or someone inside our association has uh, through whatever unique means and ability to draw in network of partnerships even outside our association from other Southern Baptist churches that would pour monies into a new start. That would be the only way we could start a full-time salaried new church planter to start a new church. But how will the six Revi teams help us start new churches? Well, we want to start new churches in the future from a healthy posture. Ideally, that would be men that's come up out of our churches that God has called out, that they've been through internships, they've had some seminary extension training that's given them knowledge and understanding under their belts, combined with their internships experiences, that they know what it's going to take to build a healthy church, and more importantly, how to lead that group to build a healthy church. So, our learning, first of all, about prospects, guys, being ready to be sent out from a church will come through this information, through these relationships will form, just like I was pointing out what Andrew pointed out to me this week. I don't know everything, and certainly there's more guys God's calling out that we will be finding out in the future. But by having six teams, if God can give us this to be going to our pastors, we'll have much more relational capital and venues for disseminating and receiving information that I'm going to be able to get around to all of our pastors and knowing them like what hopefully these relationships being built by six teams will be building. Also, the fact of our sending out guys from our existing churches and even sending out core members to join with that planter to start a new church from scrap with a team of people. That's going to happen by our churches knowing one another, the pastors knowing one another, and our churches working together. That will not happen unless our pastors are able to put other pastors on their hearts. Well, don't we have that? No, we don't have that because of what I said on the front end. It's a new day, a new reality. Our connectedness is not there anymore because the Southern Baptist life we formerly knew is not there anymore. So we've got to approach afresh, building new working relationships together. The ideal, the vision of our helping one another's churches and our helping one another's churches, the existing churches needing help and planting new churches someday, is a way we can build an authentic, worthy working relationship together as an association, because that really is answering our purpose statement. And quite honestly, if you read the purpose statement in the annual, that was what was here when I came in 1997. That's what attracted me in part in 1996 to talk with the search team for the DOM calling, because I read that purpose statement and I thought, if that's where they're going, I want to get in on it. When I got here and started realizing where we were and what was actually understood together how we worked and what we were to do, we honestly didn't have a plan, a practical plan to allow us to do that together. I think what God's been allowing us to be able to see in the last 2 years with our own physical eyes at Olympic, at Houston, at Ceres, at Oakdale now, and other experiences taking place, and Patterson sending out helpers, a helper coming from our former Merced Calvary Baptist Church. They weren't necessarily sent out. There was a lot of families leaving, unfortunately, from the church, but one of those was a called person. They did an internship at Berkeley, and now they're called as and serving as the senior pastor of Berkeley Avenue Baptist Church. But this is giving us a way that we could help one another as associational churches. I kind of see this, it's not original with me, but talking with Andrew and others, there's 4 S's we're going to realize. Like we were saying a moment ago, these churches that we're replanting already, they're sinking. And if we don't give them help, they're going to sink. We've got some that are just surviving, but they need help. They need help strategically with music or small group leadership or whatever that is. And we, by finding out through our regions and the pastors sharing their hearts as they're being honestly loved and listened to by our fellow pastors coming alongside them to meet with them, we can find out how we can look and pray to bring help to them. To illustrate, this is what Patterson did for Berkeley. They sent Michael and Catherine there to help them with music, a whole situation that desperately, that was very vital to Berkeley surviving and now beginning to grow again. Or maybe thirdly, they are a church that's stable. They're not sinking. They're not just surviving. They're going on. They're staying together. And they would be willing to help another church in the association that is sinking or surviving some way if they knew that way they could help. Through our guys come alongside our pastors, they could understand how that and help and inform that stable church how they could help an Oakdale, an Empire, a Delhi, a Merced Calvary, or another church that's sinking or surviving and needing a particular kind of help. Or maybe fourthly, another last S is they're ready to sin. And through our guys meeting with a pastor, maybe not in the first visit, but it's going to come out eventually in successive visits. We've got a guy that's being called of God, and he feels like God's calling him to ministry. He's had these experiences in our church, and perhaps he's a guy that's already been taking seminary classes, seminary extension in the association already. And or we can get him into that pipeline of internships and seminary extension classes and some more intentional mentor coaching, and he'll be ready in 12 months or 18 months. And we can watch that guy being groomed, and those pastors keeping in connection with that pastor, they'll give him a ripe opportunity to send that man into, or send him along with others from sister churches to start a brand new church. Well, this is a little long, but I hope this paints the picture maybe a little more um, understandably of how our working together in this Revi farm system and our having regional Revi teams go in and listen to our pastors and love on them. And then the Revi teams pulling that information and me coordinating the information dissemination and connection from one source to another source, one church to another church through our Revi team men in those regions, or my helping then get those guys in the seminary classes that we're doing in the association, or setting them up with an internship formally in their church and helping coordinate and set up the mentor coaching within that church to groom that called out one more to be ready to go help another church, like has happened in the last 3 years in the association, or to be that maybe first one there's going to be a first one somewhere that we're going to send out to start a brand new church with a core team of people. We want to start a brand new church with a planter, leader, and 2 or 3 families that have experience like small groups, administration, music, maybe a youth leader, children's leader, finance person for legality matters. So yeah, we could use 4 or 5 families going out with a planter ideally to start a healthy church. So that's how all this could answer starting new churches in the future, as well as continuing to come alongside and revitalize sinking churches, surviving churches, and allowing stable churches and sending churches to grow stronger by sharing their strength with others. And through that exercise of loving on smaller churches in need, they grow stronger themselves. Thanks, guys. Look forward to our continued work together and uh, what God's setting before us as a vision and dream to go after. Thanks.